So great to see you all. How have you been? How's your new year going? You guys having a great time out there? My name's Renee. I'm excited to see you. Thanks for joining us today. If you are joining us in this group, you are with the Making Healthier Policies group, and you're here because you care about making policy that matters for yourself, for your workplace, and your community. And so you're thinking about how can we make things healthier? And for that, it's the perfect time of year to be thinking about healthier policies, because we all probably made some New Year's resolutions, or at least had some thoughts of some goals we wanted to set for the new year. And like me, maybe some of you wanted to talk and have more influence this year and be on more stages. And if you were with us last week, we talked about stages. We talked about reasons you might want to use them, why you might want your voice heard, and all those kinds of things. And today, we're going to connect that dot back to how can you use those stages to get things you need. So if you're here with us live or on replay, put networking in the chat and let us know you're here, because we're going to talk about how to use a stage to grow your network in ways that you can grow your business. I first want to say thank you to Angela and to Margie for always catching the replay. I really appreciate you guys. And for Lisa, who always wants to share this with her friends and invite more people in. The best thing you can do to say thank you is invite people to our group. We'd love to have you here. And so thank you so much for those of you that have invited people in. But again, if you're here live or watching the replay, put networking in the chat. And we're going to talk today about how to connect a stage that you could talk on to networking with people and how you can use the stage to get some things that you need. I'm going to give you some really specific examples and stories today so you can see how this could work for you in this new year. Well, I'm Renee Schulte, and I am a mental health clinician by trade, and I am a recovering workaholic, and I am a reformed politician. So this time of year, we're working in politics a little bit. We work on strategy and building systems. I really, really care about implementing policy and making sure that it works for all of us. Because what good are rules or laws if they're not actually followed and if we're not actually getting the benefits of them, right? So that's what I do. So last week, we talked about stages, and we talked about 8 different reasons why you might want to be on a stage. And some of those could be, there's a lot of reasons, but just to recap a few, sometimes you might want to have your message heard. Maybe you need to raise money for something, and you can use stages to do that. Maybe something you want to grow in your business, or maybe you want to grow just personally and have a challenge or something that is challenging to you and you want to grow. We talked about what is a stage, and a stage is not just the little platform you go stand on, although those are still a thing. So you could go stand in the front of your Rotary Club, your Kiwanis Club. You could go stand in front of maybe a political group and speak on that stage. That's absolutely still a thing. You could go to conferences in person and speak on a stage, but there's tons of opportunities now on the virtual side as well. And this, for myself, this is a stage, and it's my stage. So I can use my Facebook group as my Facebook as a platform, if you will, to get out my message to others. And you can do the same thing. So online, you can use Facebook or LinkedIn or any other social media platform where you want to go virtual. You can also use virtual conferences. During the pandemic, we talked about how we spent a lot of time online teaching and training, and I didn't stand on physical stages, but yet I still got to teach all the time on stages. So you can too. And last week we talked about how if you are wanting to get started on speaking, there's some low-hanging fruit. And I'd really recommend you go back and listen to last week. But a high-level concept is you might know other people who have access to a stage. Maybe you know somebody who goes to the Rotary Club who helps with making the schedule, and you could get on a schedule there. They're always looking for speakers every week of the year. And so they're always needing new people, fresh blood. Maybe you know somebody that has a group on social media or on Facebook or on LinkedIn, and you want to be able to speak into their group. Maybe you know somebody that has a podcast and you could be a guest. So these are easy ways to speak in places so that you can get your voice heard. And I'm going to say this one more time, but every conference, every club needs speakers. So the way you figure this out is you talk to the people that are in charge of making that calendar and get on their good side and see what they need. And then you become that resource for them and you're in. So say somebody has a conference and they need more butts in the seats, right? They need more people there. Well, if you talk to them and you offer to speak and say you're going to bring 10 friends, right? That helps them win. That helps you win. Everybody wins. Everybody's happy, right? And then the last thing we talked about last week is once you get in the door, if you do a good job and do what you say you're going to do, you'll get invited back and you can repeat and rinse and repeat and come back and improve year after year after year. So today we're going to talk about 3 different ways you can use stages to help you find people that you want to work with and help you find like maybe people that want to work with you, maybe people that you want to work with, maybe people that want to get in and collaborate with and build a partnership with or delegate work so that you can meet your goals in 2023. Okay, so we're going to talk about 3 different types of stages. All right. Number 1, speaking on a stage in a room full of your people. You have a group of people that your message resonates with. And here in Making Healthier Policies, we resonate with people who are advocates, people who are policymakers, people who want to move policy forward. That's our tribe. And so finding rooms of people just like that would be really important to me. So maybe you want to attend a conference on your niche topic so that you can speak in front of a group of people who also care about what you care about, right? That would be the first way. The second way is speaking on a stage or an event where people in the audience could be your people that could hire you. So either people that are going to want to work for you or that would hire you. And I'll talk about in a little bit, a couple of examples of when that worked for me, where that led to other business. We'll talk about examples in just a second. So you're looking for number 2, a group of people where people are in the room that have that impact, that power, that influence that can invite you to something else. So sometimes you're speaking in a room to people who often also have stages and they can invite you to speak on their stage and pay you to do that. So you're going to be thinking about the people in the room that can hire you to do whatever it is you choose to do. Number 3, speaking on a podcast or social media space or someplace with like people in the room and letting the audience know what you need, what you're looking for. So say you are going to be hiring new people and you need a virtual assistant as an example, and you tell the people in that group what you're looking for. And sometimes the people that you need on your team or to do the work or the whatever project you have on tap are in that audience and can help you get resources, references to find the right people. So a lot of you may not know this, but the last month or so, we have this big crack in our basement wall. And it thought it was just foundational, but not really. It goes all the way to the ceiling from the basement, all the way to the floor of the basement. And it rains, it leaks. And so we had to have people come and do basement restoration to fix that. But now there's a wall that needs to be replaced, right? Drywall, paint, the surfacing stuff. We have to have the carpet put back. We have to do an electrical outlet, right? So saying those things out loud to an audience like you might know people. You might know people who do exactly that work, right? So we're talking about the third way where that you might be looking for something for help and you speak it out into the space and it comes back to you. So let's talk about those 3 ways of using a stage and how you can use those to build business. And I will give you some examples of how I've done it in my own life. So the first one, speaking on stage in a room full of your people. So during the pandemic, we've talked about this using stages. I used a ton of stages and taught a ton of classes and a ton of just workshops during that time on mental health and self-care. 2 topics that I could talk about for forever because I have such a deep knowledge and passion about that. But people got interested in that topic, especially during the pandemic. If you remember, everybody went home kind of March of 2020, and they were for a while shut at home. And then for a while past that, we didn't really have open activities for conferences. Everything went virtual, right? And so being able to speak virtually, I got to continue that craft and continue in that work, but did it all online. And during that time, I could use my area of expertise, which is mental health and self-care, to get on those stages. So speaking at lots and lots of conferences on helping people, how do they take care of themselves in that additional time of stress? Thinking about how do you take care of yourself? And a lot of people didn't really think about the pandemic as stressful, but if you think about it from a perspective of decision making and how many extra decisions you had on your plate, that's called decision fatigue. And that actually makes things really, really complicated. And so there's a lot more stress than people knew. So we would talk about like how watch the data in Iowa as it would go up and up and up and up and up. for the pandemic for people with anxiety and depression who self-reported, and that's staying really high still 3 years later. And so we talk about that. So what did that do for me? It allowed me to get more experience. It allowed me to network in that group. And I would speak on one stage and somebody in there would say, hey, could you come do that at my workplace? I'd go to their workplace and they'd say, hey, could you do it at this other workplace, and go to that next place? So it was just a way to network across. You start teaching, you start training, you share your material, and people in the audience may say, hey, I would like you to come here. So if you would like to be a speaker, that's one thing that you can do too. You can get in front of a group of your people and start teaching them about what you have to say. And then they can say, oh, I know somebody else that would love to hear this. Would you go consider talking with them, or be on their podcast, or be on their stage, or on their Facebook group, etc. So that's number one. You use that stage full of your own people. Number two, we talked about how you could use on stage where other people in the room could hire you. So if you're a coach or a consultant, the world around you is always a potential person that could hire you, but if you've got the right people, right? And so I can give you a couple examples of exactly this. So one time early on in my consulting career, I was asked to come speak after I was a legislator. I was asked to come speak at this legislative conference about redesigning our mental health system in our state. And myself and the other legislator who was involved in that, they asked us to come talk about how did we do that, et cetera. Well, the room was full of other legislators from other states, right? That would make sense, right? That's the audience. And so from that, I was offered a position to come as a consultant to that other state to help them build out a system that could work for them for behavioral health. That all started from me speaking on a stage. I spoke on a stage, explained what I did, talked about how we did it, that kind of thing. And that added interest to people in the room. And they said, hey, we need somebody to come and do that for us. Would you consider bidding? We bid, we won. That's another different story, but we used the stage of a bid to beat out other people so that we could get that job. That's one example. And then just recently, we were invited to come to the National Association of Rural Mental Health, and we were speakers out in Boulder, Colorado. And that place is full of people that are either human services directors or people that are in various provider groups or different entities that could hire us, hospital CEOs, different things that could work with us as far as being from rural mental health. And so we've got work and conversations happening in that space where we work in rural mental health. I work rural, remote, and frontier because I live there, and talking about how can we help others. And so there's going to be an opportunity because we spoke in Boulder to now be able to speak at their next conference, which is in the fall in Pittsburgh, because we went to that event. And then there's people in the crowd that we can build relationships with and potentially have work down the line. You see how that works? Now, the third stage we talked about is a group of people, friends, people that are, in your support group when you need something. So you need a virtual assistant, or I need someone to hang drywall and put in carpeting, whatever it is you need. Sometimes you need to be able to speak that into a group. If you are part of a group online, if you are part of someplace where you can speak, you can start filling up those opportunities. And so sometimes talking to your own Facebook group and letting people know, like even going live into your own page, letting people know what's going on, what you're looking for, that's called low-hanging fruit. That's easy to reach. It's easy to grasp, and they can potentially help you find exactly the right people that you need. There's research that shows that we focus on what we're looking for. You may have wanted to buy a yellow car of some kind, and you're like, nobody ever has one of those, so I really want it. But once you start thinking about it, and once you start searching for it, you're going to start seeing them everywhere in the community. You're going to be like, I had no idea there were so many yellow cars. Well, that's because your brain starts looking for it, right? So by speaking it out into the world, you can start looking for your next virtual assistant, your next carpet layer, your next electrician, and you can speak it. And then all of a sudden you'll start seeing when those things become available. You see how it works? Your brain is working hard for you. So even if you put it out there, you start thinking about it, it's going to lead you back. And so you can use that to your advantage. So tell people in your circles what you need, what you're looking for. And people generally want to be helpful. So they may give you a reference or a referral, and it may not be perfect. I had a conversation last week. I had a coach conversation for my business, and they thought of somebody else, and that's not exactly what I needed, but I learned about a piece of software that might be useful. I learned a couple of tips and tricks that might be useful, and who knows, maybe one day that relationship will actually be useful. It wasn't perfect for that minute, but it didn't hurt to meet somebody, right? And so that's what you can do when you get into a place of your own types of stages. So there's three things to think about when you're networking and using stages. You can get people, your own types of people in the room. So whatever it is you care about, a whole room full of them. If you're a plumber, get a whole room full of plumbers and start to see what happens. If you're a person that the second kind is you want people in the room that can hire you. Who can you step up on a stage in front of and have people that would want to pay you to do what you do? And third, who is that group of people that you can just put out into their world what it is that you need? Now, you may be thinking, I understand a little bit about this, but I need a little bit of help. At this point in time, please put strategy in the chat and we're going to get you a link so that you and I can have a short call to make sure that I can help you down this path. We won't have all the answers in a short period of time, but I can guarantee we'll come up with some great first steps for you. Now, next week, I'm not going to be here. I'm going to be out of town, and there's going to be a couple of posts about this so you can learn all the details, but I'm actually going to be in Japan. The American Council of Young Political Leaders has invited me back on a special alumni trip for their 50th anniversary of delegation exchanges, and I'm beyond excited to be there. The last time, it's a very long story. We'll go into it another time, but I wasn't really able to talk about being gone. This time, I can say whatever I want. So we were going to have a best of next week. So come back. Come and see us, and we're going to do a best of. Can't wait to hear from you. So if you'd like to talk to me about this, how you can get on the right strategy or the right stages for you, put strategy in the chat, and we'll talk soon.